To the September 4th, 2018 meeting of the Downers Grove Village Council. It is my privilege to call this meeting to order. If you haven't already done so, there are copies of our agenda on either side of the room. They look suspiciously like this one right here. You can pick up a copy and follow along with our proceedings tonight. There will be multiple opportunities for public comment, both with respect to each item that we will be addressing on our agenda tonight, as well as a segment under item 4, which is reserved for public comments of a general nature. At that point in time, if there are any questions or comments of a general nature with respect to things that are not on tonight's agenda, I will invite anyone present to come up to the podium and introduce themselves, and we'd welcome hearing from you at that point in time. But first, it is our proud custom to begin our meetings by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance, so I'd like to ask everyone present to please rise and join us in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. And now, I would like to ask our exceptionally amazing village clerk, April Holden, to please call the roll.
Commissioner Wallace?
Here.
Commissioner Earl?
Here.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Here.
Commissioner White?
Here.
Commissioner Jose?
Here.
Commissioner Barnett?
Here.
Mayor Tully?
Here. Thank you very much. That brings us to item 3, which pertains to minutes of past council meetings. We have one set of minutes to review and approve tonight. Those are the minutes from our regular council meeting of August 21st, 2018. If there are no changes, concerns, corrections, or adjustments of any nature, I would ask for a motion to approve, please.
Mayor Tully, I move that council approve the meeting minutes of August 21st, 2018 as presented.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. Minutes are approved. That brings us to item 4, which is previously advertised as reserved for public comments of a general nature. If there are any members of the audience who wish to ask any questions or make any statements with respect to items that are not on tonight's agenda, please come to the podium and let us know. We welcome hearing from you. If it's on the agenda, that'll be coming up shortly, sir. I think you were interested in 7B? No. Oh, if you have a general comment, please, by all means. I didn't want to keep you from getting your steps in tonight.
My name is David Haugen. I live at 4826 Forest Avenue. I just remembered it's my 35th year in Downers Grove.
Congratulations.
One of the things that I've noticed has characterized this village council from the time that I started paying attention was the long-range planning. And after experiencing the 2013 flood, we had numerous neighborhood meetings and a very rational plan was established. And the area of low drainage, one of them, I live on the edge of that and have made some expenditures and thought that I wouldn't be around because I'm moving out of town. I wouldn't be around when the project was implemented, but I know it's implemented according to a very rational objective, and I really appreciate that planning. The second thing, what long-range planning, I naively just became aware of the grand comprehensive plan and would like to know whether there are printed copies available for loan or for distribution, rather than my printing it out.
Yes, obviously it's available on our website, and I believe that we have copies available at the Downers Grove Public Library.
Oh, okay. So for public reading at the library?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And for some reason, because it's very popular, if they're all checked out, someone hasn't returned theirs, let me know, and we'll make sure we get you one.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being here. Any other questions or comments of a general nature from members of the audience? All right, very well. Thank you for those comments already. That brings us to item 5, which is our consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
Mayor Tully, I move that council approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to any of the items on tonight's consent agenda? Questions or comments from members of the village council? No, Mayor, because it's a consent agenda. Roll call, please.
Commissioner White?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye, the consent agenda passes unanimously. That brings us to item 6, which is our active agenda. We have one item on tonight's active agenda, that is item 6A. Do I have a motion to adopt an ordinance annexing 4000 Lee Avenue to the Village of Downers Grove, Illinois?
Mayor Tully, I move that this council adopt an ordinance amending 4000 Lee Avenue to the Village of Downers Grove, Illinois, as presented.
Second.
Are there any questions or comments from any members of the audience with respect to this item? Questions or comments from members of the Village Council? May I have a roll call, please?
Commissioner White?
Aye.
Commissioner Waldeck?
Aye.
Commissioner Wallace?
Aye.
Commissioner Earl?
Aye.
Commissioner Jose?
Aye.
Commissioner Barnett?
Aye.
Mayor Tully?
Aye. The motion passes, and we welcome 40,000 Lee Avenue to the Village of Downers Grove. That brings us to the end of our active agenda, on to item 7, which is our first reading on our workshop agenda. This is where items are presented for discussion, consideration purposes only. No final action or formal vote will be taken at this point in time. As is customary, we typically ask our fine village staff, led by Village Manager David Fieldman, to present the items for discussion and consideration by the Village Council, and then we'll open it up for any questions from members of the audience. We'll start tonight with item 7A. Mr. Fieldman, good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Tully. Thank you for that introduction. We do have 3 items on tonight's first reading agenda. The first item, item A, is an ordinance amending certain liquor provisions. And here to provide the background information on this item is our village attorney, Enza Petrarca.
Good evening, Ms. Petrarca. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you, Mayor. Good evening. The first item is a proposed ordinance to eliminate the E-entertainment license classification from the liquor code. As some of you may recall, back in 2009, this liquor license was established in response to a request from a business that was opening in town known as the Karma Club. Over the years, we've had numerous issues and violations, in fact, which last year led to the revocation of that liquor license from that establishment. It is the only e-liquor license classification in the village. We are now proposing that we eliminate that classification entirely from the code. I'd be happy to answer any questions, Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you for bringing this forward. It's something that we've been talking about doing for some period of time. I'm very familiar with the issue and wanted this to come forward for elimination, so I'll open it up for any questions or comments from members of the Village Council. Commissioner Waldeck, good evening.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. I have no problem with the removal of this classification, but I'd just like to state again that I do have an ongoing problem with what I call designer classifications, and this is one. It's designed for a location, a particular business, and we designed it for that, and now we're pulling it out because it didn't work out for a number of reasons. But I just remain not an advocate. I'm opposed to designer classifications, but I will be voting to remove this particular classification. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the Village Council? Commissioner Barnett, good evening.
Thanks, Mayor. I wanted to take a minute to say thank you to the Liquor Commission and our legal staff, and you also, Mayor. I see this as just an example of we tried something, it didn't work, and the good news is we've got lots of really diligent, thoughtful people in a lot of positions trying to guide us towards corrective action when things don't work. This, like any other ordinance, is probably best managed when it's not stagnant. But that then requires that everybody's paying attention going forward. And so this was a reasonable try. It didn't work not only for this most recent licensee, but for at least 4 very different businesses. And so probably the businesses best suited to really large facilities struggle to maintain the standards that this council and priors expect. So I'm thankful to everybody for paying attention and continuing to bring it forward, and happy to withdraw it later.
Thank you, Commissioner. Other questions or comments from members of the council? Any questions or comments on this item from members of the audience? Please, sir, if you wouldn't mind coming to the podium so all the folks at home can hear you. Thank you. Welcome back.
Hello, I'm David Haugen. I didn't hear the name of the organization, the business. I didn't hear the name of the business. It's not on the agenda.
Actually, because the business hasn't been there for some time, we're just withdrawing the license classification, so it's not specific to any business in particular.
You're eliminating a classification.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
Any other questions from the audience? Any final questions in the village council on this item? Thank you very much. Next item, please.
Thank you, Mayor. The next two items are award of contracts for stormwater drainage improvements, and here to present these items is our Public Works Director, Nan Newland.
Good evening, Nan. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight to present two contracts for award. Both of them are stormwater projects. The first is a motion requested to award a contract for the Prince Forest drainage improvements to Performance Construction Engineering for the amount of $512,660. This is for what's referred to as SPA Project Number 10 from the 2014 Stormwater Project Analysis. And it is shown in this report. This is the location of the project. It's bounded by Prince Street, Forest Avenue, Prairie, and Franklin Street. This is an older area of the community that has a very low level of infrastructure. A lot of it's drained by an old clay drain tile that's behind, surrounded by homes that is partially collapsed in areas. We are proposing to come in and replace this line as well as add additional lines on streets that do not have existing storm sewers that will add inlets and capacity to drain them. This area experienced yard flooding and structural flooding in the 2013 storm event. This will also create the option for people to do additional cost share projects in these areas to further improve drainage. We issued a call for bids. We received 4 bids, and the low bidder was Performance Construction. Although they have not completed projects for the village in the past, we did receive very good references from them for many surrounding communities, and staff is recommending approval of this contract this evening. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Questions from members of the council? No questions of the council. Any questions from members of the audience with respect to this item? Welcome back, sir. I don't think we've had a hat trick in some time in terms of public comment. It's refreshing.
Yes. I wanted the council to know that on the first page where it says the name of the project, under the heading background, in the second paragraph, it says, drain the rear yard depression. I don't know if it's customary to talk about easements, but this requires creating a drain on private property, which, as I understand it, requires the removal of 2 trees. Is that right? Removal or only disruption? I haven't been able to tell.
I don't have the plans.
Okay. In this whole packet, it doesn't say anything about this project requiring an easement, and it doesn't say anything about how the homeowner will be, not me, adjacent to me, will be compensated for the loss of 2 large trees. Now, the loss of 2 large trees has come to me only by oral communication from 2 sources. One source from the village and one source from neighborhood conversation. But it does involve that. Nevertheless, it will drain water from the middle of this bowl. And that was, water from that bowl was the major problem in 2013, along with the fact that the soil is largely clay and doesn't absorb water. So I would like to ask, when projects such as these involve easements, is that a topic that the council considers, or is that at the staff level?
Sure. Well, first of all, we're not voting anything tonight. What we'll do is find out, number one, if 2 trees are going to be impacted by this project, yes or no. I would be surprised if they were on private property.
They are on private property.
Well, then I'm not so sure that they're going to be impacted, but we can find out.
Yes, well,
That's question number one. And question number two is whether an easement is required. I don't know, and I'm actually looking at the document right now, but it's a long document, and I don't want to take your time while I look
Yes.
for it.
I
Well,
will-
we can get the answer to those two questions, because there's a threshold question of whether or not any private property is going to be impacted in the first place. If not, then that would answer the question.
Yes, well-
If so, then yes, of course, we don't just go into private property and do projects without collaboration with the private property owner.
that's correct.
So if it's
And
not in the document, and I suspect I've now
I-
talked long enough where staff can answer the questions.
I've communicated with Susan Kwasny by email, and she told me that oral agreements have been established, but they have not yet been formalized.
Okay,
So when I looked at this, which is coming to the council for the first reading, I did an electronic search for easement and found that it was not there. And I'm curious as to whether a property owner who may be losing two very large trees due to this project will be compensated by planting at least, they can't replant trees of
Sure.
comparable size, but something.
sure. And I'm just looking, and I noticed there's various things that are going to be done and replaced that are in the agreement, but it sounds to me like there may be some additional things that are being worked out with the property owner, as staff is going to give you the details on that, and it just may be they haven't been reduced to writing yet, but the short answer is something's being worked out with the property owner. It's not being done to them, it's being done with them.
Yes, well, I guess I would just like to say that if I don't have an opportunity to come next time, I would think that that should be a topic that the council considers and that staff describe to the council. Because evidently, it seems rather unusual, and the staff engineer said, well, we can't do the project if we don't put a drain there, and
And we can't put a drain there unless we have the consent of the private property owner.
that's right.
So we're in the process of securing those easements, and any issue about tree impact is included in the discussions about the easement, so we can provide further information as we move forward next week.
Yeah, I've done a lot of reading and have found out that if you cut off tree roots, you have to prune, but perhaps in this case, the route is going to go right through the middle of the tree. I don't know.
Right. And there is some tree pruning, there's some tree protection, there's some other things that are in this bid, so I suspect that's
Yes, and those have to do with
Right.
trees that are on the
in the right of way.
Yes.
There is some tree removal, so I suspect that none of this will happen until there's a satisfactory agreement worked out with the property owner.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Based on that, any other questions on this item from council? Hello again, Dan.
Okay. The second project is award of bid for contract for the Hitchcock and Warren Stormwater improvements to John Neary Construction for the amount of $605,354.70. This is referred to as SPA Project Number 12 from the 2014 Stormwater Project Analysis. And this is the area over east of Belmont, south of the train tracks, and on Hitchcock, just west of Cornell. Between the train tracks and Hitchcock, there's a depressional area there behind the homes that does not have an outlet. It resulted in structural flooding in the 2013 storm, and this is an area we historically have gone in and pumped because there really is nowhere for the water to go, and for many years, Public Works has gone in and pumped for large storm events. This project will include installing a storm sewer underneath the Burlington tracks, which will take the water north to a storm sewer on Warren on the north side of the tracks. We looked at several alternatives, and this was the preferable and cheaper option. We recently received the easement from Burlington Northern, so we're ready to move ahead with this. And we received 6 bids. John Neary was the low bidder. They have performed projects for the village before, most recently in 2012 and 2013 when they did the Washington Street improvements, and we received additional positive recommendations from them, and we are recommending award to John Neary, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Questions from the council? Questions from the audience on this item? Just checking. Very good, thank you.
And that ends our first reading tonight, Mayor. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you very much. Appreciate it. That brings us to item 8, which is the mayor's report, and I have a couple of items to report on tonight. Speaking of stormwater, as my colleagues and many members of the public know, I for years have served as the District 3 municipal representative to DuPage County Stormwater Management Planning Committee. At today's meeting, there were a couple things that I wanted to share with everyone of pertinence to Downers Grove. Actually, one thing, but two different items, so I'll combine them. I had spoken in the past about the county taking the lead on doing a watershed plan for stormwater management for St. Joseph's Creek that would include portions of Downers Grove, Lyle, and Westmont. And that was being talked about, but I'm pleased to report that today the Stormwater Management Committee unanimously recommended to DuPage County for its approval, I expect approval, the funding for that project in the amount of about $86,000 that will do the stormwater management planning for the St. Joseph's watershed plan for purposes of having the underlying work or the preparatory work that is necessary that may lead to future funding and future projects that will help mitigate some of the stormwater issues in that area. This is an important precursor to perhaps achieving some of the mitigation and relief that we know we've heard from residents along the St. Joseph's Creek watershed who have been impacted by flooding in the past. So this is an important step. I want to clarify that this will not actually fix anything by itself, but as with many things involving the complexities of stormwater, it is a necessary precursor to possibly having some projects done in the future, and more importantly, laying the foundation for funding of those projects from outside sources, such as state and federal funds. So I was very pleased to have made the motion to have this go forward, and it was unanimously approved by the committee today. So as that goes forward, I would ask that obviously I will report what I can from DuPage County staff's standpoint, but also from our own staff, keeping us apprised of how that's going, because I know that particularly Deer Creek, this has an impact on them, and they'd be very interested in keeping apprised of what's going on.
Absolutely. Will do.
So that's good news. I want to report that out. On far more somber news, I'm sure everyone heard the sad news this morning that longtime Naperville Mayor George Pradle passed away at the age of 80, a day before his 81st birthday. Mayor Pradle had been ill for a while and then had actually staged a remarkable recovery. Had lunch with him at the State of Naperville address earlier this year, and he seemed to be in great shape, but unfortunately had fallen ill again rather rapidly and recently passed away. George Pradle is a legend when it comes to municipal leadership in DuPage County and the state of Illinois, I would go so far as to say. Longtime mayor of Naperville, and really led that city through some tremendous changes under his leadership. And before that served as a police officer, a very popular police officer within Naperville who went by the name of Officer Friendly. And if you ever spent any time with George Pradle, he was all that and more. I personally had the privilege and the honor of serving with Mayor Pradle both on the DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference Board of Directors while he was mayor of Naperville, and up until his passing with him on the 100 Club of DuPage County, which benefits first responders and their families who have lost their lives in the line of duty. I've learned a great deal from Mayor Pradle. He has served as a role model and an inspiration for many mayors in the area, including myself. I certainly have benefited from his example. I would say that not only the city of Naperville, but DuPage County as a whole has been blessed with his contributions and his leadership, and he will be sorely missed. You could not find a warmer, more gregarious cheerleader for a community than George Pradle. His spirit, his warmth, his personality would fill a room and keep even of the most unruly of politicians in rapt attention whenever he spoke. He will be sorely missed. I'm glad that we got to know him, and I wanted to thank, on behalf of myself and the entire Village Council and the Village of Downers Grove, the entire Pradle family for sharing George with us for as long as they did, and we are keeping all of you in our thoughts and prayers during this very difficult time. So our deepest sympathies to the Pradle family on Mayor Pradle's passing. He will sorely be missed. That's all I have for my report, so we'll go to item 9, which is the manager's report. Mr. Fieldman.
Thank you, Mayor. One quick item of good news. The Village of Downers Grove has been selected the number 14 greenest vehicle fleet in North America. Each year, the Government Green Fleet Award ranks the top 50 fleets for their dedicated use of alternative fuel and hybrid vehicles. And for our village, we have ranked in the top 50 for 5 consecutive years. These awards are supported by the Clean Cities Coalition, which is operated by the U.S. Department of Energy. It is quite an honor to receive a string of awards like this. Hats off to our fleet team, our innovation teams, and everybody who supports our fleet and the use of alternative fuels. Congratulations to that team. And that is it tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
I actually have a brief question about that. I want to keep track of how many historic homes we have. Do we have assembled in one place all of the environmental awards that we won, that this village has won? There's a great many. You know,
There are several. We can
You
work.
know, the pollinator bee, the solar-powered light. I mean, there's probably more than I can think of. So it might be a beneficial thing to put all of them. This is obviously a very important one, and there's others too.
I believe we're working on an awards video. It's somewhere in the making process. So we will take that in as direction. We'll get that set aside. And,
I think that's a terrific idea, and since the Government Finance and Budget Awards have now outstripped the space that they can be reflected in, we might want to literally create on the website a virtual, I don't want to call it a trophy room because that sounds ostentatious, but somewhere where folks can actually see from anywhere the recognitions that have been bestowed upon various aspects of the village. I think that's a terrific idea. And the video is great, but I think somewhere where you can look and sort of see a virtual case where people can see them without coming here because this building doesn't have that space.
that's a great idea. We will get to work on that. Maybe some kind of pop-up book on the website or something like that.
Wow, that's such an innovative idea.
Fantastic.
How did you come up with that?
Doug and Chris. But thank you. We will do so.
But congratulations as well to the team for another remarkable achievement.
Thank you. That ends our report tonight, Mayor.
All right, very good. That then brings us to item 10, which is our village attorney's report. Ms. Petrarca, hello again.
Hello, Mayor. Only one item tonight, and that is an ordinance amending liquor provisions. It will be on next week's active agenda. That is all. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. That brings us to item 11, which is reserved for council member reports. This is an opportunity for members of the village council to either share items of interest or other goings-on in the community with those who are either here tonight or watching from home, or reporting out in their role as a liaison to another elected body, such as, or elected body, or another governmental body, I should say, such as I just did with respect to the Stormwater Management Committee of DuPage County. I'll start with my left tonight with Commissioner Barnett. Good evening. Any report?
I have no report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Earl, how are you tonight?
I am fine, Mayor. I do have something. Dohofer Park recently put in their new artificial turf field. They replaced it, so they cut the ribbon last Thursday, and it's all ready for action. And up and coming, we have a new driving range pavilion at the golf course. So I understand soon that we will be also having a ribbon cutting for that. So all kinds of new improvements over at the Park District.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. I'll switch gears and move down to the other end. Commissioner Jose, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you, Mayor?
I'm excellent, thank you. Anything to report?
I just wanted to echo your thoughts on Mayor Pradle. I remember early in my term up here, Mayor Pradle coming on behalf of DMMC to give a presentation on the benefits of the organization. I don't think it's too much to say he held court for quite some time. It was a joy to watch him work, and he's going to be very, very missed. I echo your thoughts, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Waldeck, hello again.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I echo the thoughts of Commissioner Jose and yourself. It was always a pleasure to see George, and At one time, I saw him, and we were introduced, and it was months later that I saw him again, and I was really shocked that he remembered my name. He was always upbeat, just a wonderful guy, and he will be missed. On a very much lighter note, behind us in our rearview mirror is Labor Day, and many families are back to trying to get back into the routine, but you still want to have some fun. And some of the folks out there have dropped off their youngest in college, and they have become empty nesters, and they need something to do this weekend. So this weekend is the Fine Arts Festival, September 8th and 9th. I believe it runs from 10 to 5 on the Main Street. Lots of things to do for the family, and it is fine arts. If you have that empty room now, maybe you can indulge yourself in some fine art that you wouldn't have tried before. So anyway, that's this weekend, and for further information, check out downtowndg.org. And it's September, lots of good things happening in town. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate that. And speaking of good things happening in town, Commissioner Wallace, how are you tonight?
I'm delightful, Mayor. How are you?
Excellent, thank you. Is there anything else happening?
There is another wonderful happening in Downers Grove, not this weekend, but the following weekend. The Education Foundation of Downers Grove District 58 is having their Oktoberfest, September 14th and 15th. Friday, it is open from 3 to 11, Saturday from 11 to 11. There's a kids zone Saturday noon to 7 p.m. There's going to be lots of delicious food, face painting, dunk tank, music. So come on out and support District 58 Foundation. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you very much. Bless you.
Thank you.
And finally, Commissioner White, how are you tonight?
Well, I have no report.
Very good. But you do have something else very important to do. We cannot adjourn tonight.
Report.
We do need to go into executive session to consider personnel issues. So I will ask for the appropriate motion from Mayor Pro Tem White, please.
Okay. I move the council convene into closed session pursuant to Section 2C1 of the Illinois Open Meetings Act to consider the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the village.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. We are convened into closed session. We will not be coming out and voting on anything. So for all of those of you who are here in the audience and those watching at home, have a wonderful evening. Good night.